Welcome to Griffonomics. So, I want you to just imagine for a second the server farm that's powering whatever artificial intelligence you used this morning.
Right, the actual physical hardware.
Yeah, exactly. When you opened an app or, asked a chatbot to draft an email, you probably pictured this sleek, futuristic room.
Just humming with glowing code and microscopic transistors.
Right. But the physical reality, that AI is completely dependent on millions of gallons of highly specialized, highly engineered water, and the keys to that entire global infrastructure are quietly held by a 102-year-old sanitation company from Minnesota.
Which is pretty wild to think about.
It really is. So welcome to you, the listener, to this custom deep dive. Today we're taking a massive stack of sources. We've got Investor Day presentations, financial transcripts, strategic reports.
Yeah, the forward-looking strategy documents for FY 2025 and 2026.
Exactly. And we are basically analyzing a massive corporate evolution. We want to know how Ecolab, which is traditionally known as a chemical services provider for cleaning and sanitation, how did they transform into a high-tech sustainability utility?
And really an essential infrastructure partner for the whole global AI boom.
Yeah.
It's really the ultimate paradox of the modern industrial landscape. Because most people interact with Ecolab's products indirectly every single day. Right.
But they have no idea.
Exactly. If you eat in a restaurant or sleep in a hotel or visit a hospital, their technology is quietly operating in the walls and the utility rooms. But what these financial documents reveal is this fundamental transformation.
Right.
This legacy company, which is famous for industrial dish soap and pest control, is currently engineering the physical, thermal, and chemical reality required to run the most advanced artificial intelligence on Earth.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how a sanitation company gets to play in the global semiconductor and AI infrastructure space, we have to establish their baseline first.
We have to look at the foundation.
Right. Before we get to the AI revolution, we have to understand the impregnable foundation this company is built on. Because, you don't just pivot into high tech without an ocean of capital and unprecedented scale.
And their scale is genuinely difficult to visualize. I mean, we are talking about 48,000 associates deployed out in the field.
Wow. 48,000.
Yeah. And they are actively managing roughly 3 million customer locations across 170 countries.
That's just a staggering footprint.
It is. They operate across 40 different industries. So it encompasses everything from food and beverage processing plants to commercial hospitality, paper mills, massive life science facilities. It's a deeply embedded physical footprint.
So I was reading through the segment breakdowns, and to understand how they monetize that massive footprint, you really have to look at their business model like the ultimate industrial subscription box.
So that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, they operate on this classic razor and razor blade model. They aren't just selling a customer a jug of specialized detergent or a barrel of water treatment chemicals.
Right. They're installing the actual hardware.
Exactly. They install the physical dispensing machine, that's the razor, and then they lock the customer into recurring deliveries of the chemicals, which are the blades. And that model accounts for 90% of their $16.1 billion in sales. It's almost all recurring revenue from consumables and annuities and leased equipment.
And the mechanics of that model are exactly what creates their economic moat. When you physically install dispensing equipment into a customer's facility, and you integrate your consumables directly into their daily workflow, you create tremendously high switching costs.
Because it's a pain to rip it all out.
Exactly. Let's look at a global hotel chain, for example. If they want to switch to a cheaper generic chemical provider, they can't just buy different soap.
Right.
They would have to literally halt operations, rip out the warewashing machines in the kitchens, uninstall the commercial laundry dispensers, and replace the cooling tower water systems across thousands of properties globally.
Which would be an absolute operational nightmare.
It's a total nightmare. So Ecolab deeply embeds itself. They secure these multi-year contracts, and they cross-sell across their primary segments, which are global water, institutional and specialty, pest elimination, and life sciences.
It basically creates a situation where once they are integrated into the building's plumbing, they just stay in the building forever.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, reading the 2025 and 2026 strategy documents, you see this realization that kind of changes the trajectory of the whole company.
The realization about the data.
Yeah. When you have specialized equipment operating in 3 million physical locations worldwide, and it's dispensing chemicals, tracking water flow rates, monitoring boiler temperatures, you are generating an immense amount of data.
And that realization marks the strategic inflection point we're analyzing today. Historically, Ecolab utilized that data as just a bundled free value add.
Just giving it away.
Yeah, it was simply a customer service tool to prove to the client that their chemical treatments were working efficiently. But now, they're executing this massive pivot. They're transitioning from giving those connected analytics away for free to packaging them into high-margin, standalone, billable software.
Which they're calling Ecolab Digital.
Exactly.
But wait, the sources mentioned they've had 3D TRASAR technology for nearly 30 years. Why the sudden pivot now to charge for it as software?
Well, to understand the pivot, we first have to understand the actual technology. 3D TRASAR isn't just like a basic water meter. It's a highly advanced sensor network that uses fluorescent tracing.
Okay, fluorescent tracing. How does that work?
So they inject specific, totally safe fluorescent molecules into a facility's water system. And then the 3D TRASAR sensors use optical fluorometers to constantly read the light scattered by those molecules.
Oh, wow. So they're reading light inside the pipes.
Right. It allows them to detect scale buildup or corrosion or biological fouling at a microscopic level in real time. And then the system automatically adjusts the chemical dosing to fix it before a pipe bursts or a boiler fails.
Okay, so it's essentially an automated molecular level defense system for industrial plumbing.
Precisely. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture of why they're monetizing it now, it comes down to a fundamental macroeconomic shift in how the corporate world values digital insights.
Right, the shift to software.
Yeah, the CEO actually noted a lesson they learned through their strategic partnership with Microsoft. You see, 20 years ago, the global economy was very hardware-centric. Software was often just a perk, something that came on a CD-ROM with a machine.
Like getting a free game with your new computer.
Exactly. But today, the entire global economy runs on consumption-based software models. We pay for cloud compute, SaaS platforms, data analytics. Ecolab realized they were stuck in an outdated hardware and chemical mindset.
They were effectively giving away a massive value creation engine for free.
Exactly. They were saving industrial clients millions of dollars in water and energy efficiency and just leaving all that value on the table.
Which really explains their new mandate. They outline this highly aggressive strategy in the sources called the 100-100-100 vision.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, so they want 100% of their global customer locations connected to the cloud, 100% of the applications at those locations connected, meaning the industrial dishwashers, the HVAC cooling towers, the commercial laundry units.
Everything.
Everything. And critically, they want 100% of it to be billable software revenue.
And the runway for that specific growth engine is just massive. They carved out Ecolab Digital as a standalone business recently. And the sources indicate it has already reached roughly $400 million in annualized sales.
And it's growing at over 20%, right?
Yeah, over 20%. But the underlying math is what really makes analysts pay attention. Because if they simply convert their current legacy customers, the people who are already relying on the hardware, into paying software subscribers, that represents an immediate $3 billion addressable market.
Just from the people they already work with.
Exactly.
And when you look at how they are applying artificial intelligence to these legacy workflows, I mean, the real-world examples are wild. The value proposition becomes undeniable.
They have some great platforms.
Yeah, they mention software platforms like DishIQ and AquaIQ, but the one that perfectly illustrates this shift is their AI-powered pest intelligence platform.
Oh, the pest control one is fascinating.
Right. Because for decades, the standard operating procedure in the pest elimination segment was entirely manual. A technician would drive a truck to a hospital or a restaurant, physically walk the perimeter, and manually inspect dozens of mousetraps and bait stations.
And the stat in the report was crazy. Something like 95% of the time, those traps were completely empty.
Right. 95% of the time. It's the definition of operational inefficiency. You are paying for human labor and fuel and insurance just to have a guy go look at empty plastic boxes.
But with pest intelligence, they have completely re-engineered that workflow. They transitioned the facility to 247 predictive monitoring using connected smart devices.
So the trucks are smart now.
Yeah. And the system pulls in environmental data, temperature, humidity, structural vulnerabilities, and it uses predictive AI models to actually anticipate pest activity patterns before a full-blown infestation even occurs.
That's incredible.
It is. The algorithm only dispatches the human technician to the specific location where action is immediately required. So you're transforming a highly manual reactive labor cost into a proactive optimized digital service.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. If AI is optimizing their pest control and their dishwashers, What is Ecolab doing for the actual computers that are running those AI algorithms?
Ah, right, the
Yep.
physical bottleneck.
Yes, because the physical infrastructure required to run generative AI is hitting a massive wall, and it all comes back to water.
This is where the narrative shifts from just a cool corporate modernization story to an absolute critical dependency for the global technology sector. We have to discuss the physical toll of artificial intelligence.
Because the cloud isn't just floating in the sky.
Right. It's composed of millions of spinning drives and processing units housed in massive warehouse-scale data centers.
And the expansion of those data centers is staggering. I mean, the research indicates the tech industry needs to build an estimated 1,000 new AI data centers over the next 5 years.
Just to keep pace with demand.
Yeah, and by 2030, the electrical power required for global AI operations could equal the power consumption of the entire country of India.
Which is mind-blowing.
It really is. But more importantly for our deep dive, the water needed to cool these systems could equal the drinking water requirements of the United States.
And we have to explain the thermodynamics behind that water usage. The next generation AI chips, specifically the advanced high-density GPUs from companies like NVIDIA that train these large language models, they process an unbelievable amount of data,
And processing data generates heat.
a lot of heat. Historically, data centers relied on air cooling.
Yeah.
They would use massive HVAC systems to blast chilled air through the server racks. But the heat density of an AI chip is so extreme now that traditional air cooling is fundamentally obsolete.
It just can't keep up.
No, air simply does not have the thermal capacity to carry that much heat away quickly enough.
Let me try an analogy here. Imagine you're cooking and you take a blazing hot cast iron skillet off the stove.
Yeah.
If you just blow on it or point a desk fan at it, it's going to take forever to cool down because air isn't very dense.
Right.
But if you drop that hot skillet into a sink full of cold water, the heat transfers instantly. Water is incredibly dense and can absorb exponentially more heat than air.
That's exactly it.
So if you try to air cool a rack of next-gen AI chips, they will literally melt their own circuitry. They need specialized liquid coolant pumped directly to the source.
And that physical limitation is exactly why Ecolab launched Cooling as a Service, or QoS, focusing on direct-to-chip liquid cooling. Because liquid cooling in data centers is a relatively new frontier, there wasn't an established dominant player. It was often managed by a patchwork of general contractors.
But Ecolab realized they had a century of expertise in industrial fluid dynamics.
Exactly. They are now stepping in to deliver and manage highly specialized liquid coolants directly to the microchips.
And they aren't just acting as a radiator. The sources highlight this fascinating efficiency mechanism. By combining their smart coolant distribution units, the CDUs, with the real-time analytics of that 3D Tracar technology we talked about earlier, they optimize the thermal flow so precisely that they're actually able to return up to 10% of the energy used for cooling back to the data center.
To be used for raw compute power, which is a profound financial unlock for the tech giants. I mean, the internal estimate suggests that this thermal optimization generates roughly $10 million in value per 100 megawatts of power.
Wow.
Yeah. When you are a hyperscaler operating massive facilities, any energy you save on the cooling system is energy you can redirect to powering more AI chips. It is basically the holy grail of data center economics.
And they are managing this while addressing severe geographical constraints, too. The strategic reports highlight their operations in Singapore, for example.
Right, a highly water-constrained region.
Very constrained. But it's a vital global tech hub. Ecolab already manages 80% of the installed data center capacity there, and their stated ambition is to refine this AI thermal monitoring to the point where they can run a massive hyperscale data center using less water than a typical car wash.
Less than a car wash. It represents a total paradigm shift in resource management. But, you know, the AI story doesn't actually start in the data center.
Yeah.
No, the data center is just where these chips live and operate. We have to trace the supply chain back to where the chips are actually born.
Ah, the semiconductor fabrication plants, the fabs.
Exactly.
All these massive, multi-billion-dollar clean rooms where the physical silicon is etched. And this perfectly explains their big M&A move, right? The $1.6 billion acquisition of Ovivo Electronics.
Yes. What's fascinating here is the absolute extreme precision required in modern semiconductor manufacturing. When you are fabricating microchips, you are dealing with transistors that are measured in nanometers.
They're essentially operating at the atomic level.
Right. So to clean the silicon wafers during this process,
Mm.
you cannot use tap water or filtered water or even the highly purified water used to manufacture injectable pharmaceuticals. You require something called ultra-pure water, or UPW.
Right, because standard purified water still contains trace amounts of dissolved minerals and ions. It still conducts a tiny bit of electricity. And when you are building a transistor that is a few nanometers wide, a single stray calcium ion, or like a microscopic speck of biological matter, it acts like a massive boulder crashing into the circuitry. It will completely short-circuit the chip and ruin the entire silicon wafer.
It's unforgiving. And generating ultra-pure water is a brutal mechanical and chemical process. You have to force water through reverse osmosis membranes, expose it to ultraviolet light to destroy trace organics, pass it through complex ion exchange resins to strip away every single dissolved mineral.
Until you're left with just hydrogen and oxygen.
Exactly. Nothing else.
No.
And Ovivo Electronics is a dominant global leader in engineering these breakthrough UPW technologies. So by acquiring them for $1.6 billion, Ecolab didn't just add a revenue stream.
They bought the moat.
Yes, they bought the essential plumbing infrastructure required to manufacture the physical future of artificial intelligence.
And the strategic reports heavily emphasize a circular sustainability goal attached to this acquisition. Because right now, the semiconductor industry is highly resource intensive, and they only recycle about 5% of the water they use in these fabs.
Only 5%.
Yeah. But Ecolab is leveraging the Ovivo integration to engineer closed-loop recycling systems directly inside the fabrication plants. Their objective is to move that recycling rate from 5% all the way up to 80%, or even achieve total 100% circularity.
And this is a critical business imperative, not just a green initiative. The demand for ultra-pure water and microelectronics is projected to increase by 50% by the year 2034.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, and the global supply chain simply cannot build the estimated 70 new fabrication plants required for the AI boom without solving the water constraint issue first. Ecolab is basically positioning itself as the only company with the integrated scale and proprietary technology to actually solve it.
Which brings me to a question. Why should you, the listener, care about any of this? Well, because every time you use a generative AI tool on your phone, you are relying on a global supply chain of ultra-pure water and liquid cooling that this one company is trying to optimize.
It connects directly to your daily life.
It really does. But okay, so Ecolab is building the physical infrastructure for global AI. What does this all mean for their bottom line? A corporate narrative about powering the AI revolution is great, but how is this impacting their own financial reality and internal operations?
Well, the FY 2025 financial review reads like a total validation of their strategy. They reported record net sales of $16.1 billion.
Which is a 2% increase year over year.
Right. But the truly remarkable metric is their cash generation. Because of that embedded razor and razor blade model we discussed earlier, their capital intensity remains incredibly low. CapEx is only about 5 to 6% of their total sales.
That's so low for an industrial company.
It is. And this structural advantage allows them to maintain a free cash flow conversion rate consistently above 90%.
They are essentially a cash printing machine. And looking at the capital return, they spent $784 million repurchasing 3 million shares last year, and they just celebrated their 34th consecutive year of dividend increases.
But the composition of their growth is what analysts are really focused on. The legacy chemical business provides a very steady defensive foundation, but management has identified 4 specific growth engines.
Right. Global high tech, life sciences, Ecolab digital, and pest elimination.
Exactly. These advanced segments now represent 20% of their entire portfolio, and they are expanding at double-digit growth rates.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here and challenge some of the language in these corporate transcripts.
Go for it.
The sources mention one Ecolab and using agentic AI internally. Honestly, whenever a legacy company starts talking about internal AI, it usually sounds like investor relations fluff designed to artificially pump the stock price. Is this just investor relations speak, or is there real money here?
It is entirely fair to be skeptical of corporate AI jargon, but their financials actually ground this in hard structural reality. The One Ecolab initiative is their strategy to break down internal silos and aggressively cross-sell across divisions.
Trying to capture that estimated $60 billion opportunity hidden within their existing customer base.
Right. But your question about agentic AI is crucial because we have to define what an AI agent actually does compared to normal AI.
Right. How is it different from just using a standard chatbot to write an email?
So, a standard generative AI responds to a prompt with text. An AI agent is given a broad goal and the autonomy to actually navigate software systems to achieve it.
Oh, wow. So it's doing the clicking and the typing.
Exactly. Ecolab isn't just selling AI efficiency to data centers. They have deployed these AI agents across their own internal back-office operations, specifically in their lead-to-cash workflows.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, for example, instead of a human manually reviewing hundreds of complex industrial invoices and matching them to purchase orders across different global currencies and reconciling them in an ERP system, they have AI agents autonomously executing that entire multi-step workflow.
So they're automating the heavy functional bureaucracy of a 102-year-old company.
Yes, and the financial impact is undeniable. Because this internal automation is proving so effective, management actually upgraded their forward-looking guidance. They are now projecting $225 million in permanent structural cost savings by 2027.
That is real money.
It's huge. And this structural efficiency is exactly what drove their operating income margin from 18% in 2025 to a targeted 20% margin floor by 2027.
Which completely unlocks their projected 12 to 15% EPS growth quarter for the coming years.
Exactly. It's a massive financial lever.
We do need to acknowledge the broader market skepticism outlined in the source materials, though. It's not a risk-free trajectory. The analysis notes their vulnerability to macroeconomic sensitivities, specifically foreign exchange swings, potential global trade tariffs, and the natural cyclicality of their legacy industrial clients in sectors like paper and basic manufacturing.
Right. They're still exposed to the broader industrial economy.
And there is also a fascinating piece of research included called the Watermark Study.
Oh, yeah. This raises an important question about global resource anxiety. The Watermark study reveals that the world is facing a projected 56% water deficit by 2030.
A 56% deficit, that's alarming.
Very. Furthermore, the data shows significant consumer doubt regarding corporate water stewardship. The public fundamentally does not trust massive corporations to manage water responsibly.
Which presents a dual-edged sword, right? On one hand, operating in a resource-scarce environment with heavy public scrutiny is incredibly complex. But on the other hand, a 56% water deficit is the ultimate macroeconomic tailwind for a company whose entire software and hardware ecosystem is designed to minimize industrial water consumption.
Absolutely. If we synthesize all the data across these sources, the final verdict really points to Ecolab as a structural compounder. They have successfully bridged the gap between a massive legacy industrial footprint and the frontier of digital and thermal technology.
They've mastered the AI water nexus.
They really have. They are systematically solving the physical bottlenecks of the artificial intelligence revolution, from fabricating the chips with ultra-pure water to cooling the data centers with specialized liquids.
It fundamentally changes how you view the industrial landscape, which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. We have been conditioned to assume that the absolute winners of the AI revolution will be flashy Silicon Valley startups writing novel code in a vacuum.
Right.
But if a century-old company from Minnesota, famous for industrial sanitizers and trapping pests, can quietly position itself as the indispensable linchpin of global AI infrastructure, what other boring legacy companies are sitting on undiscovered gold mines of physical infrastructure and proprietary data? The plumbing of the digital age is hiding in plain sight. Risk defined, portfolio protected.